And here you see the next set of modular boards completed for the large custom project for World War II battle. The boards are designed to accommodate several large buildings which are going to be placed in some of the void spaces which you see in the interior here. All of this board has been mapped out very carefully to a square inch based on one-to-one scale maps which I designed and then sent to the customer for his review so he could lay out the buildings that he has to make sure that they fit exactly, make corrections as needed on the map, and then mail the maps back to me. So this has been a very detailed project for exact measurements to accommodate probably at least 20 or 30 large building sets, and you'll see in the next board set an entire city area that's been paved to accommodate more buildings. Some of the features of this particular nine board set here, again, these are 2-foot square boards, so this is another 6 by 6 foot section. The entire number of boards for the count for this set will be 30, comprising a table that is 20 feet long and 6 feet wide. The roads are, again, as the previous set was shown, are modeled after brick and paint scheme. This is a large cobblestone. Actually looking, which I'll tell you in the next video, at the scale, I realize these are quite large scale for the intended miniatures to be placed on here. The miniatures placed on here are 20mm scale, and these roads are probably closer to O scale, which is a bit larger. 20mm for railroad enthusiasts or terrain enthusiasts as well. 20mm is just about HO scale in railroads. So these boards connect to the previous boards that were shipped, which featured some, see if I can get a little closer without blocking all the light, which feature some foxholes or entrenchments that were dug out for defensive positions. This one is bisected to meet with the next board, and there's a large hotel that gets placed around here, and there's another entrenchment to meet that. The roads, as you see, form a parallel grid here, and there are several buildings that fit within here. And these boards begin what is a dominant feature in the next set as well, which is a large railroad line. Now this railroad here goes up an overpass, which goes over the road here, which I put in, well, you can barely see it here. There's a little wooden support underneath to help give it the appearance of being shorn up. And this rises to a height of about 4 inches on top here. I think it's maybe just a ½ an inch short. I think I lowered it because one of my concerns is that as you look at this slope, all right, this is a fairly steep grade for railroad. Actually, when I did some research on this before I started laying down the track, recommended grades for model railroads is a 4% grade, which is fairly gradual, but any grade that's steeper than that, and you begin to have traction trouble with the trains. And so I felt like if I went too steep, it would break the illusion of realism, so I wanted to bring it as gradual as possible within the confines of the layout, and the fact that this train track must exit this spot on the board and exit this spot on the board as well, and provide enough height for the miniatures to pass underneath the overpass. Now, since the miniatures are 20mm scale, they're only going to be, let's see here if I can get down to, 20mm scale miniatures are only going to be about this big, a little under an inch, so there should be plenty of room for the miniatures and the vehicles to pass underneath here. In finishing the overpass, as this was one of the more, complicated, maybe a little exaggerative, but one of the more detailed areas I had to consider, frequently overpasses have concrete abutments that can sometimes extend outward or extend backward, and I gave quite a bit of consideration as to what I needed to do to that. But since there's been so much labor done on the board set already, this is an enormous project and has been consuming quite a bit of man hours to complete. So I wanted to take something that might be a little bit easier but give still a nice realistic finish. So what I opted for is a stone embossed wall, implying that it was a stone archway put in, reinforced with field stone perhaps. And then I've done just a simple timber frame to give the indication that there's some timber framing to give support to the upper deck where the train would pass over. So I think that was a nice compromise and provides enough realism and limits the amount of material working that would have to be done to build up this area with angled cuts, etc., etc. The one note about the one note about the railroad track is it took me a second to learn how to apply the railroad material. You know, to get the ballast for the train tracks to settle in, you have to apply dilute glue to this to soak in, and to get that without moving all of the ballast around was a bit of a trick. And I notice as I'm assembling the boards for the photos here that even with some pretty dedicated effort to align the joints here, there's still a little bit of a hiccup where because the boards are not perfectly flat, the railroad had to be pressed down onto the boards to cure. Again, these are very rigid rails, so they're very resistant to that, and so the railroad is really trying to maintain its own height, and the difference in the ballast underneath produces a slight bump, but luckily we're not running any trains on this, and I think the overall effect is going to be very nice here. Where possible, I tried to maintain the natural joints that are used in the railroad so that you know, it would have the appearance that you could run a train on it, with the only difference being where the boards are bisected. Of course, I had to cut the railroad pieces and make as close a join as I could. So learned a little bit about laying railroad track with this project, which is something new for me, and I have quite a bit more respect for the railroad enthusiasts who develop some pretty impressive layouts working with some materials that I think are a bit tricky to work with when you are first approaching them. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoy the look at this board set, and very soon after, hopefully within the next few hours after this one is posted, you will see the next set of 9 boards, and then the next set of 6 boards as well, to comprise the entire 30 board set for this project. Thanks, and of course, if you want to see any close-up pictures of any of the work that's been done on this set, you can always visit TerranScapes.com, and there in the custom work gallery you will see pictures posted for these probably within the next 2 or 3 days after this video has been released. Hope you enjoy the look, and look forward to the next video showing the next board set.